India's semiconductor ecosystem is set for a quantum leap. Through the 11th to the 13th of September, Semicon India 2024 has brought together global semiconductor industry leaders, policymakers, innovators, and academia to engage in key discussions showcasing India's semiconductor strategy and policy, which is aimed at making India a global chip-making hub. The event has been tailored to provide valuable insights into innovations and trends in crucial areas like smart manufacturing, supply chain management, sustainability, and workforce development.
Welcome to Semiconductor, or in fact Semicon India 2024. This event is being organized in the Greater Noida, just in the vicinity of the national capital of India. The three-day event, in fact, is a mega event being organized with companies like Tata, Micron, Dell, amongst other major global companies, showcasing their expertise in semiconductor. In fact, this event is being pushed as one of the major attractor of investment to India. There are multiple companies that have come here to showcase their expertise, their production line in the semiconductor unit. The government is giving the much needed impetus to make India as the future of the semiconductor global hub of the future. So of course, this event is attracting visitors from across the world. We see visitors from Taiwan, Japan, China, South Korea, as well as other countries that have come in here to showcase their products.
भारत में सेमीकंडक्टर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग फैसिलिटी लगाने के लिए 50% सपोर्ट भारत सरकार दे रही है। इसमें राज्य सरकारें भी अपने स्तर पर और मदद कर रही है। भारत की नीतियों के कारण ही बहुत कम समय में 1.5 ट्रिलियन रुपीस से ज्यादा के इन्वेस्टमेंट इस क्षेत्र में भारत में हो चुके हैं।
Last year, Semicon India had seen nearly 40,000 visitors and 600 exhibitors. Over 8,000 people from over 23 nations participated in Semicon India 2023. The annual event is part of the effort to ensure that India develops a domestic semiconductor ecosystem, from designing and manufacturing to testing and packaging, not only for its electronics and electronic components industry, but also for those abroad.
I am very ambitious, because I am in this industry almost 25 years, and I am stationed in Singapore. And this time we see that is more real, because the government is supporting the industries, almost 70% subsidy. We already have a subsidiary in India. It's operational for last 2 years. And we also bringing another 3 more companies. We also plan to have our own manufacturing facility in India that can supply made in India products that according to PM Modi's vision.
Semiconductors are the nerve centers of all modern day electronic equipment which requires any amount of computing power. These can
And we're going to cross live now. We're getting some more visuals from New York here. Prime Minister Narendra Modi meeting with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on the sidelines of the Summit of the Future. We recall that they had just met about 1 month ago when Prime Minister had visited Ukraine. And in fact, the leaders are likely to discuss the global issues and regional issues, of course the conflict in Ukraine, and how Zelensky has a plan, in fact a peace plan. I'm sure he will be speaking about that with the Prime Minister. And we earlier remember that the US President Joe Biden had complimented Prime Minister Narendra Modi on his visit to Ukraine, which took place exactly 1 month ago. And he called it a historic visit, a visit with the message of peace. In fact, Prime Minister had earlier also visited Russia, as we recall. So this is a meeting that took place just a short while ago in New York on the sidelines of the United Nations for the Summit of the Future at the UN General Assembly building. The two leaders held talks on a wide range of topics of mutual interest. The leaders focused their discussion on global and regional development. The Prime Minister congratulated, in fact, he did talk to President Zelensky about the situation. And Summit of the Future, of course, is a world which we look for peace. And we can see that the Russia-Ukraine conflict is one of the centerpieces where the world is trying to bring these warring parties to peace. Prime Minister had taken that strong initiative, and on assuming office in his third term, it was a bold move to visit both Russia and Ukraine and to tell them clearly that the best way is for dialogue and peace, and this is not, as he said, the era of war. Not something new. Prime Minister has given this message for some time now. In fact, in Samarkand itself, he had told President Putin about that. Prime Minister continuing a series of meetings with world leaders on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly session. The 79th session is currently on. It started on the 10th of this month, and the debate in fact, the general debate will take place on from Tuesday onwards. Prime Minister will not be addressing the general debate. He has addressed the Summit of the Future, and he will now be meeting some thought leaders in New York, and apart from that, holding bilateral meetings with his counterparts, world leaders. So we continue to give you news and updates here on DD India. For the moment, let's carry on with this bulletin. India and Vietnam also, we did know that Prime Minister Narendra Modi had earlier met with the Vietnamese president, the president of Vietnam, To Lam, and they looked at furthering ties. This was an important visit because this meeting took place on the sidelines as well. Prime Minister Narendra Modi held talks with the Vietnamese president, To Lam, in New York after the United Nations Summit of the Future at the UN General Assembly. The two leaders held talks on a wide range of topics of mutual interest. So these leaders, they focused on global and regional issues. Prime Minister had congratulated To Lam, the president of Vietnam, on assuming charge of greater responsibility. He is the General Secretary as well of the Communist Party of Vietnam. And they continued collaboration towards strengthening bilateral ties between India and Vietnam. India's Prime Minister reiterated his sympathies and solidarity with Vietnam. They had faced loss and damage after Typhoon Yagi, which took place earlier this month. Now, the President of Vietnam, To Lam, had also thanked Prime Minister Modi for the timely supply of emergency humanitarian assistance and disaster relief under Operation Sadbhav. Both leaders reaffirmed the importance of deep civilizational and cultural links, as well as growing strategic ties, marked by unwavering mutual trust, understanding, and shared interests between the two countries. Recalling the visit of the Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh to India last month, both leaders discussed prospects of advancing bilateral cooperation and further strengthening the comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries. The leaders exchanged views on important regional and global issues, including the Indo-Pacific, as well as they underscored the collective role for Global South at the international platforms. Still with news from the United Nations, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi had addressed the United Nations Summit of the Future. This happened at the United Nations building in New York, and the Prime Minister, he said that the global future, the world must prioritize a human-centric approach, and the Prime Minister touched on the need for the responsible use of technology. He advocated balancing regulation, and that also should ensure safety.
जब हम ग्लोबल फ्यूचर की बात कर रहे हैं तो ह्यूमन सेंट्रिक अप्रोच सर्वप्रथम होनी चाहिए। सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट को प्राथमिकता देते हुए हमें मानव कल्याण, फूड, हेल्थ सिक्योरिटी यह भी सुनिश्चित करनी होगी। भारत में 250 मिलियन लोगों को गरीबी से बाहर निकालकर हमने यह दिखाया है कि सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट कैन बी सक्सेसफुल। सक्सेस का हमारा यह अनुभव हम ग्लोबल साउथ के साथ साझा करने के लिए तैयार है।
And the Prime Minister, during his address, also talked about reforms of global institutions. He termed these reforms a key to relevance, and he talked about how the African Union was included as a permanent member in G20, and he said that's a step in this sort of reform direction.
Success of humanity lies in our collective strength, not in the battlefield. और वैश्विक शांति एवं विकास के लिए ग्लोबल संस्थाओं में रिफॉर्म्स आवश्यक है। रिफॉर्म इज द की टू रिलेवेंस। वैश्विक शांति और सुरक्षा के लिए एक तरफ आतंकवाद जैसा बड़ा खतरा है, तो दूसरी तरफ साइबर, मैरीटाइम, स्पेस जैसे अनेक संघर्ष के नए नए मैदान भी बन रहे हैं। इन सभी विषयों पर मैं जोर देकर कहूंगा कि ग्लोबल एक्शन मस्ट मैच global ambition.
And on day 2 of his visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met a host of industry leaders. They range from several sectors: semiconductors, electronics, biotechnology, and they discussed the potential and opportunities that India had to offer. He held bilateral meetings as well. The Prime Minister continues to do that. He had a meeting with the Nepalese leadership as well as the Palestinian leadership and the leadership of Kuwait. Amritpal Singh reports.
The second day of his 3-day visit to the United States, the Prime Minister engaged with CEOs of 15 top American companies. Among those who took part in the CEO roundtable were CEO Adobe Shantanu Narayan, CEO Google Sundar Pichai, and CEO IBM Arvind Krishna, among others. Taking to X, the Prime Minister said, "I had a fruitful roundtable with tech CEOs in New York discussing aspects relating to technology, innovation and more. Also highlighted the strides made by India in this field. I'm glad to see immense optimism towards India."
The Prime Minister has been focused on transforming India with his Digital India vision. He pushed us to continue making in India, designing in India. We are proud to now make our Pixel phones manufactured in India. He is really thinking about how AI can transform India in a way that benefits the people of India. He challenged us to think about applications in healthcare, education, agriculture, and he's also thinking about the infrastructure of India.
Prime Minister stated to me that he wants to make India energy independent. He wants to rapidly grow clean energy in the country. And meeting was for clean energy. Prime Minister is a very bright man. He picks up things. He's very bright. I mean, he understands the issues. He understands the challenges, and I think that he gets it.
Prime Minister also held bilateral meetings with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in New York. Prime Minister reiterated India's support for early restoration of peace and stability in the region. Prime Minister Modi also met with Sheikh Sabah Khalid Al Hamad Al Sabah, the Crown Prince of Kuwait. They discussed cooperation in sectors like pharma, food processing, technology and energy. Prime Minister also met with Nepal's Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli and discussed ways to cooperate in areas of energy, technology and trade. On Saturday, Prime Minister Modi, in his meeting with US President Joe Biden, had welcomed new private sector cooperation on emerging technologies. Earlier in the day, addressing the diaspora at Long Island, the Prime Minister had said that Bharat doesn't wait for opportunities, it creates them. No wonder then, global tech companies are only interested in investing and engaging with India. With cameraman Sumit Nodel, this is Amrit Pal Singh for DD India in New York.
And Shubhendu Ghosh is now joining us from New York with more on these stories. Shubhendu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi continues his meetings on the sidelines of the Summit of the Future. He's met the Vietnamese president as well as Ukraine's president. Fill us in with some of the activities and the discussions that are taking place.
That's right, Mark. Significant bilateral meetings are taking place. You mentioned two today. There were significant bilateral meetings yesterday as well. We have the leadership of Kuwait, Nepal and others engaging with Prime Minister. An association like the United Nations Forum does give an opportunity for Prime Minister to also engage with other leadership, because world leaders have all gathered here in New York to be part of the UNGA. And talking about UNGA, earlier today, Prime Minister addressed the United Nations Summit of the Future. And in that, he underlined the most fundamental challenge faced by the global community. He said that global ambition must be complemented, must be followed by global action, that the international community has been able to make big promises, but realizing them on the ground has been a challenge, whether we talk about SDGs, climate change mitigation efforts, whether it is about resolving major regional conflicts which have significant repercussions around the world, especially on global south. And Prime Minister in his address also spoke about the manner in which India presents a model that the world could look at of peaceful coexistence, of diversity, the manner in which technology is made people-centric. So those are some of the elements in limelight today as Prime Minister engaged with various stakeholders at the UN and also at bilateral levels. Mark?
Indeed, Shubhendu, now India has a Viksit Bharat plan for 2047. Clearly, that's a futuristic plan. Several other countries too have planned for the future. Vietnam also has a Vision 2045 plan. Now, what were some of the ideas that are coming out of this Summit for the Future? You did talk about the challenges. Your frame is frozen, but can you hear me, Shubhendu? We seem to have lost contact with Shubhendu. It was nice talking to him. We can re-establish that and continue with our conversation. But for the moment, let's continue. Let's go back in time. Prime Minister on day 2 had also given the mantra of Pushp, which...
I'll go inside then.
Yes, addressing the Indian diaspora at the Nassau Coliseum in New York, the Prime Minister said that these 5 pillars together will build a Viksit Bharat. Talking about India's growing diplomatic stature, the Prime Minister said that India is a strong voice of the Global South.
A leader and his ecstatic admirers, rise of India on the global stage, celebration of India and Indian diaspora. It was a historic day for the Indian diaspora members in Nassau County in New York, as they accorded a memorable welcome to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Nassau Coliseum reverberated with thundering applause on several occasions as Prime Minister Modi recounted the remarkable rise of India and the Indian diaspora on the global stage. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, "India is now the land of opportunities. It doesn't wait for opportunities anymore. In fact, it creates them."
भारत आज लैंड ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटीज है, अवसरों की धरती है। अब भारत अवसरों का इंतजार नहीं करता, अब भारत अवसरों का निर्माण करता है।
Prime Minister spoke about his vision for India's future, calling his vision Pushp, which means flower, defining each letter of the word as a path to progress and prosperity of the nation.
आपको एक शब्द याद रहेगा, पुष्प। हाँ, कमल मान लीजिए, मुझे इतराज नहीं है। पुष्प, और मैं पुष्प को डिफाइन करता हूं, P फॉर प्रोग्रेसिव भारत, U फॉर अनस्टॉपेबल भारत, S फॉर स्पिरिचुअल भारत, H फॉर ह्यूमैनिटी फर्स्ट को समर्पित भारत, P फॉर प्रोस्परस भारत, यानी पुष्प।
The Indian Prime Minister also said that for the world, AI stands for artificial intelligence, but he believes AI also represents the America-India spirit.
मैं मानता हूं कि AI का मतलब है अमेरिकन इंडियन। अमेरिका इंडिया ये स्पिरिट है, और वही तो नई दुनिया का AI पावर है।
Modi in Us program was attended by some 15,000 Indian American diaspora from across the United States. A mini India was created in the stadium as performers showcased the cultural diversity of India amidst jubilant audience members. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi listed the great achievements by India in the recent years, he also presented a picture of what kind of power does India aspire to be in the future, not the one that conquers, but the one that inspires. With camera person Sumit Naudiyal, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in New York.
What's still to come here on DD India News Hour? A Russian missile hits critical infrastructure in Zaporizhia. France's new cabinet holds its first meeting. And record rains kill at least 7 people in Japan's Noto region.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked, we just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Moving on, Israel said that it had launched airstrikes against hundreds of Hezbollah targets on Monday, killing over 400 people and sending tens of thousands fleeing for safety in Lebanon's deadliest day in decades. After some of the heaviest cross-border exchanges of fire since the hostilities had flared up last October, Israel warned people in Lebanon to evacuate areas where It said that the army movement was storing, the armed movement, in fact, there was storing weapons. Nasser Yassin, who is the Lebanese minister coordinating the crisis response, had told the agency Reuters that 89 temporary shelters in schools had been activated with a capacity of more than 26,000 people. Civilians had fled Israeli atrocities, so they had to be there. And the Israeli Prime Minister has also sent a short video address to the Lebanese people. He urged them to get out of the way, get out of harm's way, is what he calls it. And after almost a year, as we know, Hamas, this war against Hamas in Gaza on the southern border, Israel is now shifting its focus to the northern border, the northern frontier, where the Iran-backed Hezbollah has been firing rockets into Israel in support of Hamas, also supported by Iran. So Israel's military has said that it had struck Hezbollah in Lebanon's south, east and north. Lebanon's health ministry said over 400 people had been killed and 1,645 wounded. One Lebanese official said that it was Lebanon's highest daily death toll from violence since the 1975-1990 civil war. Israel's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, said on Monday, he said that it marked a significant peak in the year-long conflict. Israel's Iron Dome had intercepted rockets launched from Lebanon on Monday in the evening near Tefin. The United States is sending a small number of additional troops. We are going across live now to New York, and the Ministry of External Affairs is conducting a press conference.
American Ministry of External Affairs, Sri Nagaraj Raidu. With that, I invite the Secretary to make his opening remarks. So, over to you.
Thank you, Randeep. Good evening, all. The Prime Minister has just concluded a very intense and successful visit to the United States and will be departing shortly for India. Now, we had kept you posted on the various elements of his program through yesterday and today as well. I think yesterday there were press releases issued on all elements of his program, the community event in Long Island, the tech roundtable that had been organized by the MIT School of Engineering, the bilateral meetings that he had yesterday with the Prime Minister of Nepal, the Crown Prince of Kuwait and the President of Palestine. Prime Minister also had a meeting yesterday with the CEO of Holtec International, an Indian American, Mr. Krishna Singh, very useful meeting. Today, as you're aware, was largely multilateral day. As I told you, this was a visit that had the bilateral, the plurilateral and the multilateral. Today was a multilateral day, primarily with Prime Minister's address to the Summit of the Future in the morning. And this afternoon, the Prime Minister had a meeting with the President and General Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam, His Excellency To Lam, and he has just concluded his engagements for the day with a meeting with President Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine. I have a few additional details. I think the community event, most of you must have watched it or you were present for it, so I won't go into the details of the event except to say that it once again showed the kind of connect that the Indian American community has built in the United States and the manner in which it acts as a living bridge between our two countries, and the Prime Minister acknowledged that in his remarks. The highlights, of course, were his announcement about India's plans to open 2 new consulates in Boston and Los Angeles, and also the naming of a Tiruvalluvar chair in Tamil Studies at the University of Houston. The Tech Roundtable, I had said in my curtain raiser press briefing as well as in my briefing on the first day of the visit here today, that this visit has a very strong technology element to it. You saw that technology element reflected in the Quad joint statement as well. You saw it reflected in the US-India bilateral fact sheet as well. And in his other meetings as well, this has been reflected, not just with the MIT organized roundtable, but also in his meeting with the CEO of Holtec. The roundtable was especially useful. It gathered the who's who in the field of the leading companies in the field of AI, semiconductors, quantum computing, life sciences, IT, and communications. I think the list is already available with you, so I won't go into that. But what was striking about the roundtable was the extent of involvement that all of these companies already have in India, the degree to which they are enthused by the prospects in India, the policy environment in India, and their plans to continue to grow in India, and grow with India for themselves and for the rest of the world. And I think that's what was really a feature of the remarks of practically every one of the CEOs, of how excited they are for their own businesses in India, especially at this moment in time when things like AI and quantum computing are changing the world as we know it. The particular sense in India at this time that technology can be a driver of seminal change for the nation, but also for countries of the global south in general, which should not be left behind in this race for technology. They felt that India could play a leadership role in this regard. The Prime Minister, of course, shared with them his own thoughts about the new policies that are coming into play. We have you are aware of the India Semiconductor Mission, for instance. There is a second edition of that is in the works, and he shared his thoughts about those policies that are coming, and invited them to be a part of this exciting journey that India is embarked on. And also it gave the opportunity to reflect on how technology has become a core driver of the India-US strategic partnership. Insofar as the bilateral meetings are concerned, I think you already have some sense of the meetings that took place with the Prime Minister of Nepal. There was an opportunity. This was the first time that the two Prime Ministers were meeting after Prime Minister's own election for the third term after the because Prime Minister Oli was not in office at that time, and then Prime Minister Oli took office in Nepal. So this was their first meeting in this particular phase. It gave them the opportunity to reflect on the unique and close bilateral relationship between the two countries and their intention to make progress in all areas of bilateral relations, including the development partnership, the cooperation on energy, on power, on connectivity, insofar as energy is concerned, physical connectivity, people-to-people connectivity, etc. The Prime Minister also had a meeting with the Crown Prince of Kuwait, where he remarked on the very close relationship between the two countries. And in fact, the Crown Prince of Kuwait said that India is a part of Kuwait's history, and in fact cited some old sayings from Kuwait that reflected the closeness of the relationship between the two countries. There are a few high-level visits in both directions that were deliberated upon, and these will be planned in the coming months. The Prime Minister's meeting with the President of Palestine, the Prime Minister referred to India's historic support for Palestine in the United Nations, on the international stage, as also the consistent and sustained humanitarian support that India has provided to Palestine in the fields of health, education, capacity building, and others. He also expressed deep concern at the unfolding crisis in Gaza, where the situation remains complicated and tensions remain high, and reiterated once again that only a two-state solution can deliver sustainable peace in this area. The President of Palestine thanked the Prime Minister for the assistance that India had provided, including on the political issues, and hoped that India would continue to play its role for bringing peace in the region. Today, as I said, the Prime Minister had meetings with the President of Vietnam and the President of Ukraine. With the President of Vietnam, again, as you know, the President has also just very recently taken over as the General Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam. The Prime Minister congratulated him on his assumption of this new position. He also recalled the visit of the Vietnamese Prime Minister to India recently, the significance of the India-Vietnam strategic relationship. He expressed condolences for the recent devastation in Vietnam on account of Cyclone Yaji. General Secretary and President To Lam thanked Prime Minister for his good wishes, thanked him for the aid operation that India had launched under Operation Sadbhav recently to bring relief aid to Vietnam. Prime Minister also invited him to visit India, an invitation which was accepted and will be worked on through other channels. Both sides remarked on the growing relationship, especially in the fields of defense and security, in energy, and of course cultural contact, which remains a very strong part of the relationship. The day ended just a short while ago with a meeting between Prime Minister and President Zelensky. This, as you would have remarked, is the third meeting between the two leaders in the space of about 4 months, and probably 3 months, if I'm not mistaken. It gave an opportunity to take stock again of the recent developments. President Zelensky, Prime Minister, recalled his visit to Kyiv, their discussions on all matters, the bilateral issues as well as issues surrounding the Russia-Ukraine conflict. President Zelensky was very appreciative of India's attention to these issues and said that Prime Minister's visit had been highly appreciated, and he thanked the Prime Minister for the efforts that he was making for peace and a pathway to finding a way out of this conflict. Both sides appreciated that there was positive momentum on a lot of issues in the bilateral relationship, and they agreed to remain in close touch, either directly or through exchanges of visits at various other levels. As you would probably be aware, there is an intergovernmental commission between the two sides, and there was some discussion about arranging a meeting of the intergovernmental commission, which is headed at the levels of the two foreign ministers. I think I've covered all the points. Yeah, there was this meeting yesterday with Dr. K.P. Singh, as I said, who's chairman of Holtec International, which is a leading U.S. player in the civil nuclear field, and especially in the exciting new field of small modular reactors. And there was a discussion on the possibility of the application of that technology in the Indian context, and I imagine that these discussions will continue at the technical levels. Last but certainly not the least was today's main event, which was Prime Minister's address to at the Summit of the Future at the UN General Assembly. Here, as you're aware, the summit is taking place against the backdrop of conflict in the world, challenges to sustainable development, including in the fields of climate, health, energy, education, gender, etc. The objective of the summit is to rebuild trust in the multilateral system and showcase the power of international collaboration in addressing current and future challenges. And for the first time, the entire UN membership, through the Pact of the Future that was adopted this morning, has agreed on a pathway to transform global governance, and it is expected that this will provide some momentum to the processes that are already underway in many of these areas within the UN system. Prime Minister therefore highlighted in his remarks, which you would have seen, that in order to stay relevant, the multilateral system has to reform. Reform is the key to relevance, as he said, and he spoke of India's own example and said we've shown how sustainable development can take place at scale successfully, and demonstrated India's readiness to share our experiences with the world, especially in the field of digital public infrastructure. We have, I think his speech is available. Overall, this has been, as I said, an extremely intense visit. I think it's lasted about 55 or 56 hours in all, but we've had very significant outcomes in the bilateral, in the plurilateral, and in the multilateral domains, and have enabled India to say its piece and share its thoughts on a global stage, and I'm sure the results from this will stand us in good stead as we move forward. Let me stop there. I think the delegation is on a really, really short time slot. Yeah, I think we can take a few.
We start here. Vishnu.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. Vishnu Shom from NDTV. At whose request did the meeting between the Ukrainian President and Prime Minister happen, and was there acceptance of our argument that the import of Russian oil does not translate into furthering Russia's war effort?
Sir, Krishna Mohan Sharma from Bharat Express. प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने अपने स्पीच में कहा कि सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट जो है वो बैटल ग्राउंड में नहीं हो सकता. उसके बाद यूक्रेन के जेलेंस्की से उनकी मुलाकात हुई, तो इसका क्या नतीजा देखा जाए? कुछ ऐसी उम्मीद है कि ये युद्ध खत्म होगा, क्योंकि पूरा विश्व जो है वो भारत की तरफ देख रहा है. प्रशांत.
Prashant Shah of the Hindustan Times. One question on tech. In the conversation yesterday with the CEOs, while they were appreciative of India's strengths, were there regulatory, legislative changes that they suggested which could enable them to participate in the India story more? And did DPI come up? And what are the mechanisms through which we are pushing or planning to push DPI out? On Ukraine, sir, quick follow-up to Vishnu's question. Besides the normative desire for peace, which the Prime Minister has consistently pushed, was there a discussion on the empirical pathway to peace and the specifics of what that would entail? Thank you.
Siva.
Seema Sirohi, The Economic Times. Mr. Foreign Secretary, I had a question about the US-India big picture. As you might know, there was some meeting that the White House called with Sikh activists. And also, there is a case going on. Some people think that's why the NSA did not come in the delegation. While the bilateral joint statement is expansive, substantive, and great, there are these little things that keep happening. I mean, I don't know if I should call them little, but how should we interpret the big picture in this case?
Okay. The meeting with President Zelensky was a meeting that the Ukrainian side requested and accordingly took place. Insofar as your question related to oil is concerned, that did not figure in the discussions today. As I said, this is the third meeting in between the leaders in the last 3 months or so. A lot of the issues have been discussed, but at this particular meeting, this particular subject was not discussed. कृष्णा, आपका जो सवाल था कि प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कहा कि सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट युद्ध के माहौल में नहीं हो सकता, तो एक तरह से जो राष्ट्रपति ज़ेलेंस्की के साथ भी भेंट हुई है उसमें भी प्रधानमंत्री जी को ये कहने का अवसर मिला कि उन्होंने हमेशा शांति का प्रस्ताव लेके शांति के पथ पे आगे बढ़ने की बात की है। तो साफ बात है कि अगर शांति नहीं है तो एक तरह से सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट भी नहीं हो सकता। तो ये दोनों चीज़ें जुड़ी हुई हैं। क्या युद्ध का अंत होगा ये तो समय ही बताएगा, लेकिन सब लोगों की जो कोशिश है वो इसी ओर केंद्रित है कि किसी तरह से युद्ध का अंत ढूंढा जाए। और प्रधानमंत्री जी ने अपनी जो उनकी राष्ट्रपति ज़ेलेंस्की से बातचीत हुई उसमें उन्होंने उनसे बताया भी कि उनकी अलग अलग देशों के जो नेता हैं उनसे बातचीत हुई है और इस विषय पे बातचीत होती रहती है और सबका मत यही है कि किसी न किसी तरह से हमको युद्ध का जो युद्ध विराम के लिए कोई न कोई रास्ता निकालना पड़ेगा और इसी को लेके हमारी भी कोशिशें जारी हैं। Prashant, about the meeting with the tech CEOs, yes, a few of them did comment on the issues related to the regulatory and the legislative environment. I would say that some of them, while they said or referred to some aspects that needed addressing in India, but at the same time they were also enormously appreciative of the ecosystem and the environment that already existed in India, and that in fact enabled them to take advantage of the opportunities that were there in India. So the idea was that we are doing well. I mean, in terms of the companies in India are doing well. They can do even better, and they intend to do even better. And some enabling measures by the government would help in that regard. And the Prime Minister said that he remained open to hearing their suggestions and doing everything that was necessary in order to enable India to take advantage of the enormous opportunities that are presented by these breakthrough technologies finding fertile ground in India, to not only make India grow, but for these companies growing in India and enabling their operations elsewhere in the world also to grow. You had on DPI, yes, there was a reference. I think the reference was mostly complimentary in terms of the manner in which India had rolled out this concept and in fact shown a third way to the world of how digital prowess could be leveraged for social and public good. not just in one country, but in a scalable manner to the rest of the world. And we are, in fact, at work back home to develop a model. Some aspects are already under discussion with some of our interlocutors and partners in other countries, but we are working on a plan to see how we can get this to roll out on a much larger scale in countries where there would be a requirement for this. On your supplementary question about Ukraine and whether in addition to the normative there is clarity on the specifics, in some senses first there has to be clarity on the normative aspect. As Mahatma Gandhi, I think, said once, there is no path to peace. Peace is the path. So there needs to be agreement on that. But in addition to that, I would say that the discussions that are ongoing today, they are focused on the specifics. There have been earlier as well questions about these specifics. There are obviously discussions going on in multiple forums around the world. You have various processes that are underway, various formats that we have seen, and we've been involved in some of those, where the idea has been to try and see if there is something around which a consensus can develop. We, as a result of the Prime Minister's visit to Kyiv, you are following the developments since then, where the Prime Minister subsequently has been in touch with President Putin in Russia, with President Biden here in the US. Our National Security Advisor visited Russia also recently. So there are a number of conversations that are going on. The attempt in all of these is to try and move towards some specifics. I don't say that the specifics are available today, but the attempt is to do precisely that. Seema, on your question related to the US-India big picture and then what you referred to as things that keep happening. Frankly speaking, what you have referred to, honestly, the question would probably be better directed at the actors that are involved in these things, as you say. We are quite clear insofar as the big story here is concerned, which is the very important relationship between India and the United States. We intend to keep working on that. There are elements that you have referred to. On that, our position is very clear, so I'm not going to repeat that again at this forum. But if you want details with regard to that and what the motivation of these things is, what the purpose is, and what ends this is supposed to serve, I think it would be better to direct this question at the people who are directly involved in this. Maybe one more round, because otherwise you're going to get left behind. Take a name.
Manish? Foreign Secretary Manish Chand, India Rights Network. On the Pact of the Future, how did India shape the outcomes? What is the Indian imprint there? And number two, of all the world leaders who are at the UNGA, Prime Minister chose to speak to the president of, to the Palestinian leader, as well as to Ukraine. And in his UNGA address also, there is a lot of emphasis on peace building and peacemaking, preventing conflicts. Is this a conscious effort to project India as a peacemaker, a peace builder, and apostle of peace? What is the narrative here? Thank you. Ayushi?
Sir, good evening. This is Ayushi Agarwal from ANI. I have two questions. During the Indian Prime Minister's meeting with Zelensky, was there any discussion on the second peace summit, since Zelensky had earlier proposed holding a summit in India? So any discussion on that? Second, was there any request from the Bangladesh's interim government to hold a meeting with the Prime Minister? Thank you.
Yoshita?
Thank you. Yoshita Singh with Press Trust of India. I have a question on the UN Security Council reform. The Pact of the Future contains some language on it, which officials here have said is groundbreaking. How does India see the language on UN Security Council reform in that? Is it satisfied? Does it move the needle a bit, or is it the same language in a new pact? Thank you.
Sridham.
Sriram Lakshman from the Hindu, thank you. One of the questions was there have been many efforts to reform the UN and especially the Security Council, and they haven't really borne fruit. What is different about this pact and this summit? Are you confident, and what gives you this confidence that this is actually going to move things forward on Security Council and UN reform? The second question is about the discussion with President Abbas. How did the discussion around India's abstention vote last week on Israel vacating the occupied territories go? Can you flesh out that discussion for us a little bit? Thank you.
Madam. Okay.
गुड इवनिंग सर, आई एम सर्जना सनमार्ग से हूँ. विनय क्वात्रा जी से मेरा सवाल है कि कल जब कम्युनिटी प्रोग्राम के बाद बहुत सारे अमेरिकन इंडियंस मिले हमें, उनका ये कहना था कि हमें उम्मीद थी कि शायद प्रधानमंत्री दोहरी नागरिकता की घोषणा करें, और हमें बहुत निराशा हुई कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने इस बारे में कुछ नहीं बोला. दूसरा उनका कंसर्न था कि हम इंडिया में बिजनेस करना चाहते हैं लेकिन हमें बहुत सारी प्रॉब्लम्स आती हैं, उसके बारे में भी हमें अभी तक कोई बहुत पॉजिटिव रिस्पांस नहीं मिलता.
One last question, a friend there.
Yeah, Vishnu from News India Times. Prime Minister announced opening of 2 new consulates in Boston and Los Angeles. Do you have any timelines as to when they'll be inaugurated?
Sir.
So I think on the question related to the Pact for the Future and India's contribution to it. Now, we have been involved in the negotiations related to this for, the better part of
2 decades.
But insofar as the Pact for the Future is concerned, the better part of the last 4 to 6 months that we've been involved in it. So there's been a lot of input that has gone into it. One thing, of course, is that if you would recall that in August this year, the Prime Minister convened the 3rd Voice of the Global South Summit. And that was also an opportunity to hear the concerns of the Global South, because often their voice is not heard on several global platforms, and to see what their concerns were. And it enabled us to formulate our own thinking, and those inputs have gone into not just the Pact of the Future but also the annex documents related to the Global Digital Compact and the Declaration on the Youth as well. So we have contributed to not just the elements related to global governance, transformation of global governance, but also our concerns related to sustainable development, climate change, etc. All of these have figured in the final outcome document, and ours has been one of the most closely involved teams right till the finalization of the Pact of the Future this morning. Your question related to the significance of the meeting with President Zelensky, and does it sort of burnish our role? So look, this is not, our voice in support of peace and a path to peace through dialogue and diplomacy is not a new one. It's natural for us to assume this role, and I think the Prime Minister's meeting with President Zelensky also reflects his own, in a sense, commitment to this effort, because he is deeply concerned by this conflict, not just in terms of the human toll that it is taking, something that he has recognized, but also in terms of the toll that it is taking on the world at large, and especially on countries in the global south. So his meeting with President Zelensky demonstrates his commitment to finding a way forward and to contributing in any way possible to a resolution of this conflict. Ayushi, related to discussions with President Zelensky on a second peace summit, as I said, the discussions covered a lot of issues related to the issue of finding a way forward. A number of things came up in this. The peace summit that was held in Switzerland, the ideas that have been floated after that, the efforts that Ukraine is making on its own, and the possibility of a second peace summit that Ukraine has been talking about. But I think we are not right now at a stage where the second peace summit can be discussed in any detail. I think there is a lot of work that remains to be done before that. So there was not a great deal of discussion on that specific issue. I think you mentioned about the meeting with Bangladesh. As you are aware, the Prime Minister is leaving in a few minutes from now. The Chief Advisor of Bangladesh is not here yet, so there hasn't been any possibility of a meeting on this occasion. Yoshita, your question on, I think both yours and Sriram's questions are more or less on the same lines as to whether the new language on Security Council reform is something that would give us any conviction or confidence in the possibility of real reform in the governance. I would only point you in the direction of the fact that for the first time a UN summit document has a detailed paragraph on UN Security Council reform. So it may not have every single detail in every area that we would imagine or we would like there to be, but I think it's a good beginning, and we look forward eventually to the beginning of text-based negotiations in a fixed time frame going forward. But this should be seen as the first stop towards that objective. And the fact that, till now we haven't really had discussions on the basis of text, but an agreement at this level in the pact where it keeps open the possibilities of a reform of the UN system is a gain from any perspective. The question related to the meeting with President Abbas of Palestine and his stance. Look, as I said, the meeting was a very good meeting, and it gave the opportunity to President Abbas to, in fact, appreciate the stance that India has taken in an overall sense on the Palestine issue. And we have had repeated opportunities in the last several months to express that support on several occasions. Our fundamental position on the Palestine issue remains what it has long been. In the present context, there's much greater urgency related to issues of humanitarian assistance and support, which we have continued to provide and will continue to provide. I want to tell you that President Abbas did explicitly state that he was very appreciative of India's support, not just for humanitarian assistance, but also for India's political support to Palestine on the international stage. On that question addressed to Ambassador Quatra and the two new consulates. I think you are probably best placed to address that as well.
Thank you very much, Foreign Secretary. देखिए, जहाँ तक आपका जो प्रश्न था कि जो कम्युनिटी इवेंट हुआ उसके बाद की जो चर्चाएं कम्युनिटी के बीच में हुई, देखिए मुझे संज्ञान नहीं है कि आप कम्युनिटी के इवेंट में उपस्थित थी या नहीं थी, लेकिन यदि आप थी, जो कि आपके प्रश्न से लगता है कि थी, आपने देखा होगा कि कम्युनिटी इवेंट में किस प्रकार की ऊर्जा थी, किस प्रकार का उत्साह था, किस प्रकार की उमंग थी, एक प्रकार से यदि मैं कहूँ तो मैं आपके विषय विशेष के बारे में तो टिप्पणी नहीं करूँगा, क्योंकि विषय भारतीय समुदाय जो कि एक प्रकार से भारतीय परिवार की एक्सटेंशन है, वो विश्वव्यापी है, व्यापक है। तो उनके जो वेलफेयर से रिलेटेड जो इश्यूज़ हैं वो बहुत सारे, तो विशेषात्मक प्रश्नों पे टिप्पणी करना शायद उचित नहीं होगा, लेकिन मूल भाव इसमें स्पष्ट है। आपने जब प्रधानमंत्री जी का कल वक्तव्य सुना, तो यदि आप वक्तव्य का मूल भाग देखें, उसका मूल भाग यही है कि भारतीय परिवार जहाँ भी होगा और उनसे जुड़ने के लिए, उनसे सहयोग सहकार्य, सकारात्मक सहयोग सहकार्य करने के लिए जो भी करना होगा, किस प्रकार से वो भारतीयता को यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स में एक प्रकार से यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स की जीवन शैली का एक प्रकार से एक अभिन्न अंग सा बनाते हैं करके, वो भाव मूल रूप से उभर के आया। और कितना जो एक प्रकार से कहूँ कि किस प्रकार से एक बाहर विश्व में फैला भारतीय परिवार भारत से एक प्रकार से अभिन्न रूप से जुड़ा हुआ है, वो भावना वो एक प्रकार से स्पष्ट रूप से भाग गई। जहाँ तक एकल नागरिकता का प्रश्न है, वो आप भी अच्छी तरह से जानती हैं, हमारे संविधान में निहित है, तो उस प्रश्न पे बात करने के लिए और प्लेटफॉर्म है। जहाँ तक बिजनेस की आपने बात की, देखिए आपने देखा होगा कि पिछले 10 सालों में 2014 के बाद प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी की सरकार बनने के बाद तब से लेके अब तक किस प्रकार के कदम, जहाँ तक भारत में ईज़ ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस का जो कंसेप्चुलाइजेशन हुआ, वो प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी ने ही किया था। उसके बाद यदि आप तब से लेके आज तक देखें तो आप पाएंगे कि भारत में जो व्यवसाय, निवेश, व्यापार से जुड़े जिस प्रकार की भी कानून व्यवस्था है, जिस प्रकार की भी सरकारी का औपचारिक व्यवस्था है, उसमें कितनी सरलता आई है पिछले एक दशक में, वो उसका जो एक प्रमाण है वो सबको पता है। लेकिन ये लगातार प्रक्रिया है, ये प्रक्रिया अपने आप में एक प्रश्न में निहित नहीं होती। लेकिन मैं सिर्फ इतना ही कहना चाहूँगा कि भारतीय समुदाय से जुड़े जिस प्रकार के हर प्रकार के मुद्दे से भारतीय दूतावास, अमेरिका में स्थित भारतीय काउंसलेट, मैं तो हालांकि मेरा ये अधिकृत नहीं है, लेकिन पूरे विश्व में जहाँ भी भारतीय काउंसलेट और एम्बेसी हैं, वो भारतीय समुदाय के से हर प्रकार से जुड़ते हैं, और हर प्रकार से जो उनके विचार हैं, उनके जो विमर्श हैं, उनको हम अपने कार्यों में संलग्न करते हैं। लेकिन एकल नागरिकता का प्रश्न वो हमारे संविधान से जुड़ा है। देखिए, जहाँ तक आपके काउंसलेट्स का जो प्रश्न है ऑन बोथ लॉस एंजलिस एंड बॉस्टन, यू वुड रिकॉल दैट I think it was during the last state visit that it was announced that 2 new consulates will be open, and Prime Minister made that announcement. You all saw that, and we will now work with the US administration to carry forward the implementation of that decision. Thank you.
With that, we come to the close of this special briefing. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We were watching live the press conference being delivered by India's Foreign Secretary, Mr. Vikram Misri, as well as the Ambassador to the United States of India, Vinay Quatra. They took questions from the media about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 3-day visit to the United States, covered all aspects of that. We'll be getting you more in our subsequent bulletins, but for the moment, thanks very much for watching. That's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for all of you on the go, you can get the latest news and updates on our mobile app. Thanks very much for watching. Namaskar.